Good morning, readers. Well, it is release day for X Marks the Past, which is book number 22 in the Reg Rawlins Psychic Investigator series. And this was a really fun story to write, as Reg Rawlins usually is. Lots of research involved in this one, since we bring in some other cultures and time periods, involves past lives, dragons, cats, uh, werewolves, and we're just trying to prevent or stop the war between the werewolves and the warlocks. So, lots going on in this book, and I hope that you'll enjoy reading it as much as I enjoyed writing it.
X Marks the Past is a paranormal mystery and adventure book. It can be read as a standalone. Candy says Reg's dreams lead her to an adventure she definitely did not expect. Such a great addition to this magical series. I love her connection with the other characters in this book, especially her connection with Ember the dragon. Looking forward to whatever comes next. Are you ready for a reading from X Marks the Past? This is a release day reading of Chapter 1, so sit back, get comfy, and enjoy. Reg was surprised to find the door to Marion's business, Psychic Beginnings, locked. As far as she knew, Marion kept regular hours and was always at her storefront during the afternoon and evening, prime time for a psychic consultant. Reg preferred working at night, often staying up until dawn, conducting seances and other psychic consultations. Midnight, the witching hour, was the best time to reach through the veil and contact those on the other side. Also, the time of day that people were most vulnerable to suggestion, especially where it concerned ghostly and mystical happenings. It was a time-honored tradition to tell ghost stories and to involve the spooky, scary, and macabre after dark. A very profitable time of day for someone in Reg's business. But most of Marion's business in the small storefront on Main Street took place in the late afternoon and early evening. By the time midnight rolled around, she was probably asleep in her bed. Reg gave the knob another twist, as if she might have been mistaken the first time, and the mechanism was just sticking. But no, it was locked. In the middle of the day, when Marion should have been there. Maybe she was sick or had needed to go out of town to visit a sick relative or attend a funeral, something that was last minute, so she hadn't had time to tell anyone. Not that Marion was obligated to tell Reg what she was up to. While Reg had not gotten along with Marion when they'd first met, wary of her rival in the psychic consultations business, she'd come to respect Marion during her stay in Black Sands, and they'd gradually fallen into a fledgling friendship. And Marion had once helped Reg with a particularly stubborn problem involving spectral spiders, which was why Reg had hoped to meet with Marion today, a little problem that she figured fell within Marion's psychic wheelhouse. The doorknob was unusually warm in Reg's hand. It must have been in the sun all afternoon and had absorbed a lot of heat. Reg let go and studied it. She'd never particularly noticed the doorknob before. A quick twist and she was into Marion's space. Only this time, finding herself locked out, did she stop to look at it. It seemed to be made of old brass, tarnished and darkened around hand-carved ornamentation. Two curved swords, or sabers, crossed to form an X, surrounded by stars, curlicues, and symbols she didn't recognize. Something that might have made sense to someone 300 years ago, or to the more modern witches of Black Sands. Reg gathered her red box braids in both hands to push them back behind her shoulders while she leaned forward to scrutinize the carvings. It was an old lock, not hard to pick, or with her recently discovered telekinetic abilities to manipulate mentally. But she didn't want to break into Marion's business. She wanted to talk to Marion. Getting inside her storefront while Marion was out wouldn't do Reg a lick of good. Sighing, she turned away from Marion's storefront and headed toward the Crystal Bowl. The restaurant Reg had first gone to the day she arrived in Black Sands was still her go-to place to eat. It was within walking distance of the guest cottage she rented from Sarah, and welcoming to most of the very diverse races found within the small town. Though they had barred Reg from service there at one point. Corbin had said they would get over it and forget about her heritage quickly enough, and he'd been right. Within a few weeks, Reg had once again been able to patronize her favorite eatery without any opposition. When she opened the door and walked into the warm restaurant, the aroma of roasted garlic and herbs washed over her and made her stomach growl. Reg headed straight for the bar. She boosted herself up on the stool and arranged her brightly colored skirt. Bill, a ghostly pale bartender, was on duty. He nodded and smiled at her. What'll it be? Reg was not normally opposed to a couple of drinks with dinner, but she'd felt like she was in a fog all day, and she worried that any amount of alcohol would send her into a stupor for the evening when she needed to be focused on her clients. She might be able to convince the clients that her drifting off at the seance table was a trance, but to give her clients the best possible experience, she needed to be awake and alert. Start me with a Coke, she suggested. Just Coke? Reg nodded. Need to be clear-headed tonight. He raised his brows in disbelief, but didn't say anything. He went about, pulling a chilled glass of Coke for her. Meeting someone tonight? Well, I had plans to, but I don't know now. He placed the glass in front of her. Your favorite warlock? He suggested. Reg felt a flush of warmth spreading across her back and neck, and knew that her least favorite warlock had just entered the room. Her mortal enemy and the only one who could get her heart pumping like that just by being close. She turned her head and found Corbin there, as she'd expected, tall, dark, and handsome, with a long black cape around his shoulders. His small beard was impeccably trimmed, and he might have walked right off a movie set, cast for the role of the villainous warlock. Corbin smiled at Reg, raising goosebumps all along her arms and neck. She gave a shiver and took a few swallows of the Coke, which did not give her the fortification she needed. Corbin walked over to the bar and joined Reg uninvited, signaling to Bill for a tumbler of Jack Daniels. Regina, he purred in greeting. I'm not in the mood today, Reg warned. In the mood for what? Corbin countered, giving her an innocent look. This, she made the gesture to take in the two of them together, the whole flirtation and seduction thing. I just want to get something to eat. I have clients to deal with tonight. I don't have time for a bunch of nonsense. I see, he murmured. Well, that does present difficulties, doesn't it? He leaned closer, and she could smell the heady scents of roses as his pheromones washed over her. Corbin, she growled a warning. Bill placed a glass in front of Corbin, casting a solicitous glance at Reg. You okay, Reg? She was fighting her attraction to Corbin, dizzy with his charms. It was obvious that she was tired. She would normally have been faster, able to raise a psychic shield against the effects of the pheromones and to reflect the heat he exuded back at him. She touched her temple, trying to concentrate and to raise the energy she needed to fight him off. Don't let him, she said vaguely. She couldn't put her concerns into words. Corbin would do everything within his power to get her out of the restaurant to somewhere private he could convince her to yield her powers. It had happened once, before she'd known anything about the curse he carried, enabling or requiring him to consume the powers of others. When someone with Corbin's affliction stripped the powers from a victim, he did not return them. But circumstances had required him to do just that in order to save Reg's life, and he had, making him not only her enemy, but also her savior. Then, and the many times since he had stepped in and assisted Reg in fighting another foe, or giving her the energy boost she needed to protect or rescue others. Most recently, a pack of werewolves. Of course, Reg had helped Corbin a handful of times as well. Having held the same powers and been in each other's minds several times, Reg could not close the psychic connection between them fully. However much she wished to separate from Corbin and block him from reading any of her thoughts or feelings, it was impossible. Release her, Bill ordered Corbin. Corbin looked at Bill, his eyes cold. You have no authority over me. If you want to eat or drink in this restaurant, I do, or you'll be kicked out, banned if it continues. Just having a drink with my friend. Reg does not object. Do you, Reg? He held her gaze, smiling, wrapping the tendrils of his mind around her, tightening his grip, sneaking into the deeper crevices of her brain. You're tired, he observed. What's been going on? You're not sleeping? Reg made an effort to push him out with little effect. Release her, Bill ordered again. We will not tolerate this kind of dark power being used in this establishment. Corbin stared at Bill, and for a moment Bill's expression slackened as Corbin was able to use his influence on the bartender as well. With his attention briefly distracted from Reg, she was able to rally and raise a psychic shield against his intrusion, throwing him out of her mind as forcefully as possible. Corbin gripped the bar for a moment as if he had lost his balance and might fall. He steadied himself and looked back at Reg, smiling. Cat still has some claws. Reg covered a yawn. Even when I'm tired, she told him. She looked back at Bill. Thanks. Bill studied Corbin for a moment longer, blinking slowly, then nodded and turned to serve someone else down the bar. Take care, he warned Reg. Do not let down your guard. X Marks the Past can be read as a standalone mystery and adventure, just as the rest of the books in the Reg Rawlins Psychic Investigator series. If you haven't read the series before, you might want to pick up book one, What the Cat Knew, which you can get in my e-store at shop.pdworkman.com, or that you can get it at any of the popular online retailers of ebooks. You can also get that in paperback or hardcover. And if you've been reading the series but you're still a little bit behind, you can get the boxed set, or rather the collection of books 19 through 21, again at shop.pdworkman.com or the online retailers. Or you can get the best deal, which is books 1 through 21, saves you about 50% on getting all of them at once. You can get that at my store. And a couple of the retailers that still compensate authors well for longer collections. Kobo, if you like to read on Kobo Plus, is a good place to get that as well. I hope that you will enjoy this new addition to my paranormal mystery and adventure series, Reg Rawlins Psychic Investigator. You can pick that up at my e-store, shop.pdworkman.com, or at any of the major online retailers. Thank you, and good reading.